Hey guys, today you are in for an absolute treat. Today's guest has been through many traumas, including being stabbed to death and being resuscitated back to life. However, he is undoubtedly one of the most intelligent people that I've ever met. Right now, he is mentoring people from around the world. Thousands and thousands of people are being taught how to manage their emotions. Guys, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Kevin Bennett.
Thank you for having me.
No, absolute honor for you to be here right now. I've been looking forward to this one.
Brilliant. Thank you.
If it's okay with you, I just want to dive straight in.
Sure.
And I want you to tell me a bit about yourself and your backstory.
Sure, no problem. So, as you said, my name's Kevin Bennett. I originally come from Brixton, Stockwell Park Estate, and my journey pretty much started there. For most people going back, I would say 80s, I'm like an 80s, 90s baby kind of thing. I'm born in the 70s, but 80s and 90s. I was around a lot of very influential people, for good and for bad, coming from Brixton. And what I learned over the years, and even now I'm writing my book, and as I'm writing, I'm starting to really discover why certain things were what they were and why I'm the way I am now. And so, like, back in, Brixton, back in the days, it was, for most part, survival and fighting. And you learn to kind of build a level of resilience with life when you've gone through that level of, my brother being killed, I've been stabbed 5 different times. I lost a son. It was so much over a course of time. I've lost family members. We've all lost family members, but sometimes, we have to identify the difference between an experience and a trauma. And so I didn't realize how much accumulated traumatic events and traumas that I was accumulating over time. And so for most of us in life, we're making decisions and we're not quite sure why we make the decisions. We think that we are the architect for those decisions, and we're not. Sometimes it's trauma-based. And so, I went through the music industry. I've done extremely well. From a sound system perspective, firstly, working with playing alongside big sounds globally, Addies and Bodyguard and all those kind of sounds. And then moved away from that, and then I went into the production side of the music industry. And I was working with, I don't know if you remember, groups like Eternal and Honeys, M&A, all those groups. And then I went on to the world of concerts. So we put on loads of concerts when Puff Daddy came over at the time. That was the name at the time. So Puff Daddy, 112, Kelly Price, Casey and JoJo. So there was a time we put on a lot of concerts. And then, I discovered with myself, and actually I only discovered this 2 days ago, writing my book, that the decisions I believe I was making wasn't my decisions. It was based upon my environment. And so many of us in life believe that we are making certain decisions and we're the architects and the creators of our decisions, but it's very environmental based, it's very cultural based, or whatever it may be. And for us back in the 80s and 90s, we believed that what success looked like to us in those days was either sports or music. Things is obviously now we've got crypto and all those things, and we're more entrepreneurial now. But back then, That's what we saw from our community anyway, that seemed like the only path to our success and journey. The problem is, in the world of music, I discovered that I wasn't enjoying it. I was doing it, but I wasn't enjoying it. My brothers were DJs and artists, and my friends were DJs and artists, and all of my surroundings was pretty much DJs and artists. And then I moved on to after that to try playing football. Discovered I had 2 left feet, and then I had friends as well that were in the world of sports. And so that was my reality at that particular time. And then when I decided to move away from it, because I had emptiness and unfulfillment, even though the outward success looked really good, the glitz and the glamour of it, and all of the sparkly stuff, but internally unfulfillment was really raging. And so I started to say, right, what can I do now that is just about what I want to do? And so that's when the journey for me really started, the self-discovery of who am I when no one's looking.
Ooh, that's a powerful statement you just made there.
Yeah. And I started to really, I mean, from a young age, I used to read books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all those ones, but I was doing it from a very, very young age. And I learned how to play chess when I was 6, 7. So I had a certain kind of strategic mind, the way that I looked at things overall. And then I started trying new adventures. I started to also study the mind and emotions, and it really opened up my understanding of human behavior. I started to travel countries, went so many places around the world, just staring at people, learning human behavior. And then I started to put systems together, and I started working with people. And over time, I mean, I went down a rabbit hole. I became more interested. I started to study. I started to learn people. I started to build systems. And then all of a sudden, it just like an explosion. I went into the world and started to work with governments, government bodies, organizations, lecturing universities, work with companies, brands, organizations. You name it, it was just absolutely phenomenal. I've spoken in the House of Commons before. So there's a number of different things that I could never begin to even imagine, looking at life from the music perspective or the sports perspective originally. And I guess my advice to people is that you have two conversations going on. One is the one that will give you a dissertation, an essay in your mind that will tell you all the reasons why you should do what the ego needs. And then you have the other one that whispers, the one that's somewhere in the gut. And that one is more of your inner self, but it doesn't give you an essay. It just says small words and it gives you very fine feelings.
So is that the one you should listen to more?
That's the one you should listen to more. Your ego, the egoic mind is the one that is built upon your environment.
Yes.
And if your environment is negative, subconsciously you start to take it on and you start to become your environment. But there's another one that's not controlled by the environment, but it whispers.
Yes. And
that's the one that we should really take time out to build a relationship with. And we know that because when we try to meditate at times, we've all meditated in one form or another, either consciously or subconsciously. When we try to meditate, the actual egoic mind will do anything in order for you not to have a relationship with the whisper. And so we have to exercise the conversations with the whisper so the whisper doesn't whisper anymore.
Wow, what a life you've had, that journey is absolutely phenomenal. Firstly, just want to offer my condolences to the loss of your son and your brother as well.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what that did for your motivation. A lot of people could have maybe, gone the other way at that point. It's a real pivotal moment, but you've obviously used it to fuel,
Yeah, I mean, within the last 2 years, I've lost another brother and another sister, and a sister as well. So, it's interesting.
But one thing that you've said quite a few times that's really stuck out is the importance of the environment.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, is not controlled by us, and that can lead to trauma. But is there anything that people can do to be purposeful about their environment, to be a bit more in control?
Yeah. There's a multitude of things that people can do. I would say we're in the best time now in human history. There's no other time that you can trade with now, with the fact that you can now look outside of your community and see all the other communities that are happening. But I would say you have to focus on, firstly, your destination.
Yes.
And reverse engineer. And so what I mean by that is, if you look at a sat-nav, what does a sat-nav do? It won't give you no directions till it's worked out the destination. And then it works the roads backwards. And then it tells you what way you should be traveling. Okay, this road's blocked, and so on and so forth. So we need to first and foremost have a good understanding, an idea where our destination is, but not from the perspective that most people talk about. I'm talking about it from the perspective of how you want to feel.
Okay.
Your feelings are the most important. And the reason why I say that, because at the moment, the book that I'm writing is about who helps the helpline when the helpline needs help. And what that simply, looks at and focuses on are people that are helping people but are suffering in silence themselves. So, for example, there are so many different surgeons who are making tons of money. I mean, obscene amounts of money, but they're committing suicide at a rate that people can't even hold down, count, or calculate.
Wow.
So the reason why I say we have to identify our feelings first is because we don't want to get to the yellow brick road and traveled all these different roads and paths in the name of I need to win, to then realize that your reason of winning was based upon your trauma, which then leads you to thinking about committing suicide because there's nothing else that you need to there's nothing else that you focused on apart from the achievement.
Yes.
And so we need to identify first, how do I want to feel? Do I want to feel happy, fulfilled, content? What does that look like?
Yes.
And that's the relationship we need to have first before we start our path and our journey. Because as I said, there are so many industries out there that are extremely financially successful. However, the people that are winning, that we can see that are winning, are really committing suicide at obscene rates. And I mean physicians overall, it's crazy. And so think about how many cultures and communities that would say, I want my son to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I want my son to be a surgeon. I want my son to, or I want my daughter to be, whatever it may be, not realizing that, yes, you can go and achieve those things, but we need to identify and have enough tools to deal with when we get there.
Yes.
What does that look like? Because what I've discovered, you have like anesthetists who will do some form of anesthetic, and they may lose that person. The person just went under, and they didn't carry that energy for 10 years, 15 years. Do you have tools to deal with your destination when you get to that destination?
Wow.
And so we need tools in order to get to that destination. When we get to that destination, based upon how ambitious we are and how much we want to win and what it's going to take to maintain the winning spot.
Yes. Because we often hear, don't we, be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
Right. So, even in sport, you could say that, I want to become a professional footballer.
Yeah.
But do you have what it takes to be able to, maintain that particular position? So that's even becoming a CEO. Right? It sounds glamorous, but the pressures that come with being a CEO, are you ready for that?
Exactly.
So interesting.
Exactly. It's true. It's like I have conversations sometimes with my female friends, and I say to them, would you want to be a president or a prime minister? And like 8 to 9 times out of 10, they say yes, because imagine, like, I don't know, you're Michelle Obama of the UK, or you're Michelle Obama of Africa, or you're Michelle Obama of the Caribbean. Great. But now you have to take on that energy that your husband may make a decision where 100,000 people is being killed.
Wow.
You have to carry that energy. You have to carry the energy of many different things. You have to carry the energy of potentially being assassinated. So the glitz and the glamour externally are great, but you have to have tools to deal with them for when you get there.
So true. And I want to unpick this conversation around trauma.
Yes.
Because this is something that, a lot of people don't even consider.
Sure.
Is there anything people can do to really, be in tune with their own trauma?
Yes, very good question, powerful question. Firstly, what is trauma? We need to talk about what is trauma. So you have a traumatic event. A traumatic event could be a car accident. It could be being mugged. It could be any of those kind of things. So that's a traumatic event. It doesn't mean you're going to carry the trauma on after that event. So a traumatic event is what happens to you. A trauma is what lives inside of you.
Wow.
So first and foremost, if a traumatic event has happened, you may not know that the trauma is seeping in. So you need to counter it straight away.
Okay.
You need to have a lot of love. And I know it sounds a bit generic and airy-fairy, but it's very important. You need to have love, reassurance. Now, well, let me give it to you like this. I think it'd be a bit more easy for people to understand, okay? Let's talk about a phobia.
Okay.
A phobia of dogs or spiders, right? So a child is playing in the garden and a dog runs up and jumps on the child. Don't bite the child, but jumps on the child. The child is absolutely frantic, scared. Now, he or she's just had a traumatic event. If you don't deal with that traumatic event in that moment, that child will be, as an adult, would forever be running from dogs, crazy things like that. And so in that moment of that happening, the dog needs to come back. Someone needs to hold the dog, bring the dog back, show that the dog is not vicious. For example, needs to give the child reassurance. Reassurance is the counter for trauma.
Wow. Knowing
that you're secure, knowing that you're loved, knowing that there's security there, knowing that the worst is not going to happen whatever you believe the worst is. So that's first and foremost. Traumas are best dealt with straight away. As soon as it happens, straight away. The other side of trauma that needs to be dealt with is, having therapy. Most of us in our culture don't think that therapy is something worth having. Like, most people just go to their pastor or go to their local, or talk to the man then. And so you need to go to professionals who knows how to extract information out of you and feed it back to you in a way that you can deal with it. Also, sometimes you need tools as well. Trauma is built up energy.
Okay.
That's what trauma is. It's built up energy. And that energy, there's a saying, pressure bursts pipes.
Yes.
And so that energy needs to be released. If it doesn't release, it will seep through your pores. It will, people see it in your face, in your skin. Your body, your organs will start to break down.
Yes.
Your relationships will start to break. And so you need to have a way to release trauma. Fitness is important. As I said, releasing and talking to people who understand are important. There's certain particular things like yoga is a major release for trauma. Brisk walking is a major release for trauma. And so that's how trauma should be dealt with. I probably missed quite a bit because it's such a
big topic.
It's a massive topic. But I mean, they are what people can kind of get hold of today.
Yes.
And say, I'm gonna now start the process of dealing with my trauma. But trauma's built up energy.
Yes.
And energy across the universe is not designed to be static.
Okay.
It's currency. It needs to flow.
Yes.
The whole planet is always in moving. Right now, the Earth is moving at probably thousands of miles per hour, but we don't feel it. So everything is always in movement, and anything that gets trapped will cause problems. And so trauma is trapped energy that needs to be released.
That makes so much sense. And in our industry, we have a lot of budding entrepreneurs, people that are really striving to make big moves in different entrepreneurial spaces. And I think it's important that people understand that there's a direct link between being successful and being able to deal with that trauma.
Yes.
I often say that action takers are the money makers. So I think a real good action from this conversation may be for people to look into therapy, because it may well be that they're carrying trauma that they're not even aware of. But by seeing a trained professional that asks the right questions that can elicit that information, that could help to unblock something that's stopping them from reaching the next level.
Do you know, it's a very good point. It's very good, very, very good point. Do you know that most successful people are successful because of their trauma?
Wow.
Most successful people are extremely successful because of their trauma. Even if you kind of look at people like, for example, I don't know, controversially, Donald Trump.
Okay.
He's had major trauma concerning his relationship with his father, etc. And so it urged him to always want to be, his best, and he doesn't care in the process who
He stamps on.
He stamps on.
Yeah.
R. Kelly had trauma, and so R. Kelly's behavior was based upon his trauma.
Wow.
And so you turn into the person you may run from.
Yes.
If you don't deal with that trauma. Wow. There's a saying, hurt people hurt people. And so I also believe, which is debatable to some, that hurt people also heal people.
Wow.
So you've got two types of hurt people.
So it can go either way.
Yeah, it can go either way. Yeah. You can have one who says, I want to go out and it's like, for example, you have those people who they experienced cancer from in one way or another. Maybe their family member died from it, or maybe they had it. Then you realize that a lot of those people end up becoming an advocate to fight against cancer.
Yes.
So it's kind of like that hurt person
Yes.
now turns it into something powerful because they've experienced that pain. And then, as I said, you've got the R. Kellys of this world, and we could probably have a long list,
of course,
of people who are now hurting people because they haven't dealt with their traumas.
It's like the classic, isn't it? People that have been sexually abused, they can kind of go one of two ways. They can go on to do it to other people, or they,
become an advocate to fight against it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And so, once again, as I said, that's the energy that's not being released. That's not the energy that's not, so it seeps at the pores.
Yes.
If you don't release that energy, you can easily become the person you despise.
Wow. So a classic scenario in my line of work, especially with people that I mentor, is trying to coach people to become public speakers.
Sure.
Because the people that are able to have that in their toolbox, they can take things to the next level. And they say that public speaking is the number one fear of most people.
Sure.
Second is the fear of dying. So often it will be a struggle for me to get my mentees to get onto that stage and to speak. Could it be that they're carrying something from maybe school days where they were maybe asked to do something publicly, and
had a form of embarrassment?
Yeah, form of embarrassment. And there's something in that, do you think?
It's possible. Yeah. It's possible, but I like to probably point at something else. So there's 5 stages of success.
Wow. I hope, guys, remember, note takers are the money makers. Make sure that you've got your pens ready for this one.
Yeah, so there's 5 stages of success, but there's also 5 stages of failure. Stage 1, for everyone, I mean, no matter where you go with this, you're going to end up in the same place. No matter how much you debate it, you're going to end up in the same place. Stage 1 is your belief system. Stage 1's always going to be your belief system. What do you believe that you're black or white or short or tall or fat or thin? Or what do you believe? What do you believe that you went to public school or private school? What do you believe that your father's there or your mother's passed? Or what's your belief system? So stage 1 is your belief. Now, belief is connected to, I'm going to go back just a bit. Belief is connected to what we are. We're atoms. Yeah?
Wow.
Everything on this planet are atoms. And so when we talk about, or when it is said that God made us in his own image, I would like to believe he's talking about atoms, because everything that is common, that has a commonality, is atoms. It's the table's atoms, it's microphone's atoms. I'm an atom, you're an atom, my clothes are, everything is atoms. So if God is everywhere and everything, then it must be atoms. Okay? Why do I say that? We're made out of atoms. Inside of an atom, you've got protons, positive energy. You've got electrons, negative energy. You've got neutrons, neutral energy, like a dimmer switch. When you're in a proton state, you're happy, you're positive, you're focused in a good way. When you're in an electron state, you're negative. It's like the lights being switched off, lights on, lights off. Now, your belief system could be in a proton state. You believe you're of and from God. You believe you're powerful. You believe you're amazing, because your belief system was built upon an environment and a set of people who were in a proton state.
Wow.
And so there's evidence of, for example, children that had crack cocaine in their system because when they were born, their parents or their mother was taking crack cocaine. So things are passed down to you.
Yes.
And so crack cocaine, for example, is an electron frequency. So sometimes a child can be born in an electron state. Those children normally need a bit more work in general in life. And it's called developmental trauma in many different ways. And so I'm going to get back to beliefs, but I just want to give some backstory so it makes sense. So developmental trauma is when you have a trauma between 0 and 6 years old of some type. That type of trauma is a lot harder.
Okay.
Because your brain hasn't fully formed yet and it's now taking in information and it can't seem to work out what's reality from what isn't, what's good and what's bad. When we're older, we can look at certain things and say, that is bad. Why? Because our brain had time throughout our past to decipher and problem solve. But if your brain cannot problem solve in early stages of your life, then it will deem it normal and it's harder for those people to have relationships moving forward in their life. So going back to stage 1, your belief system. Your belief system is every single thing about your upbringing, your world, and how your outsets of the world as well. So we need to first and foremost is work on people's belief system. Do you believe you're of and from God and powerful, or do you believe you're a pleb and you're and you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you'll never be successful. You're just lower society, lower class that shouldn't even be listened to. Now, someone may articulate it and say, I'm not that, but truly, do they believe that?
So how can someone improve their belief system, increase their belief system?
So I'm going to get to that. Okay. So good, very good point. So stage 1 is your belief system, okay? Whatever it may be. Stage 2 is the meaning you give to things. Your meaning simply means your self-conversation. Mm-hmm. Because if you believe I am capable of fixing cars, okay? What does it take, to answer your question, what does it take to fix a car? It takes very small steps on learning your trade. But also, you need to have people around you that's going to keep on commending you, because you need education and you need courage, and you need reassurance that you're doing well. And so the more you do a little, the more you feel good about the little. Okay. It's the small steps. Right. And so the stages of success is you do something small and your belief system says, oh, okay. Yeah. It don't need to be nothing big. Just all you need is that's it.
A quick win.
A quick win. In the right direction. Yeah? So stage 1 is your belief. Stage 2 is your meaning. Now, your meaning could be good or bad to things. So, okay, what does it mean that now I've learned this? A positive mind will say, I'm going in the right direction. A negative mind would say, it means nothing because I'm not good enough anyway. Okay? But we'll work on that because your early stages for that person. Yeah, that's going through it. Stage 3 is action. Because when you believe, your self-conversation says, I can do this. Yes. Which then leads you to take action. Stage 4 is results. Stage 5 is knowing. You don't believe anymore. You know you can do it. Yes. Which then reinforces your belief system. Okay. And so that's what you call spiraling up. Yes. Spiraling down is, I don't believe. Why is it going to work anyway? Stage 2, it's not going to work. Stage 3, why bother even take action? Wow. It's not going to work. Stage 4, well, there's no results. You didn't take action. Stage 5, I now know I'm not good enough. Wow. And so we have to also look at what you call the sweet spot. Yes. The sweet spot for us, we may be talking about, we can make £30,000 a week. That may be a sweet spot for us. But if we stepped into a room of Donald Trump, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, and they talk about we can make 100 million in a week, it's not within our sweet spot. We can easily fall out of not being believers anymore. So even when you're positive, you still may not be a believer because it's out of your peripheral. Okay. And so we have to make sure that the things we do first falls within our sweet spot. That's why it needs to be a small win that is unique to us. Because Elon Musk may say, if I make 100 million a week, psh, but we would say, if I make 100 million in a year. So we need to have a sweet spot.
Absolutely.
And once we have a sweet spot, we start to feel good about our decisions.
Okay.
And so it's important that people around us are not negative, are not combative, and are not questioning the things that they don't understand, but it's our journey.
Wow.
That destroys our sweet spot, which then makes us question ourselves, which hurts our belief system.
I love that. Very, very clear steps.
Mm-hmm.
Very clear steps. Is all this covered in your book?
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about your book.
So the book first talks about depression, stress, and trauma. And so I break it up to 3 different categories to start with. First, it talks about, in no particular order, first it talks about stress, careers, industries, and frequencies that vibrate at a high stress level. And then it talks about depression, industries and careers that have high depression rates. Then it talks about suicide, careers and industries that have extremely high suicide rates. And the reason why I find it as a topic that I'm just absolutely obsessed with at this precise time in my life is because when I started to discover that industries carry frequencies, I wanted to look at industries, and I started to dissect that. As soon as I discovered what industry or career someone was working in, I could pretty much tell them up until a weekly event what they were going through in their life.
Wow.
And so the book first talks about the stresses, depressions, etc. Then it morphs into solutions. I wanted it to be a solution-based book. And so the solution, it starts to break down first and foremost frequencies. And as I talk about what vibrational colors you should be using, your environment, your upbringing. Then it starts to morph into the planets, how you can use the planets to benefit you.
Wow.
And, you know, it was even reported in its actual, you know, statistical facts that around full moon, hospitals get more admission.
Wow.
And police make more arrests. It's more manic. So we also need to know about our environment, how to use our environment to benefit us, and also when we know it's not our time. Sometimes you may be doing so much and nothing's happening and working for you. It's not your time.
Okay.
And sometimes you're not doing much and everything's falling in favor. It's your time. So once you can understand as well the timing of how the universe and the planets work and what is for you as well. My mum used to say, if you're born to drown, you're not going to hang. So sometimes you've got to know what is yours, and what is not yours is never going to be yours. And so learning self before going on that discovery of wealth and success, or what you may deem as worldly success, is extremely important. Or you'd end up like, unfortunately, people like, oh my gosh, it slipped me. Is it Robin Williams,
Yes,
the comedian who committed suicide? And there are many such what we may deem as successful people that are unfortunately committing suicide or suffering in silence, because even though they are go-getters, they were vibrating in the wrong frequency because it doesn't suit who they are internally.
Wow. When is your book due to be released?
So the book is going to be released in about a month, I would say. A month or two. I'm just like literally a week away from finish writing it, then I'm gonna send it off to editors, proofreaders, etc. And also connected to the book, I created something called the Lifeboard. And the Lifeboard looks at 13 parts of your life. I believe that every human being should have 13 active parts of their life working in sync together. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because, for example, people talk about vision boards, right?
Yes.
And people have vision boards up in their homes and it looks great and all the rest of it, stuck on a pinboard or paper or on a wall or whatever it may be, right? That's their vision board. And on their vision board, they may say the ideal house they want and the ideal car they want and the ideal family they want and power couples and all those kind of things, you know, based upon environment. And so it's like, okay, great. How do you get there? What is the action steps in order for you to achieve and pertain the things that you want? And all of a sudden it becomes secret. It becomes all of those things that are incorrect, but wishing for the best.
Okay.
And so
Like
what
a
I've
dream,
done,
like a pipe dream.
it's a pipe dream. It's a pipe dream. I'm not questioning the fact that they're not making active steps to achieve it, but no one's put a system together, from what I understand and researched, that is going to help them not only get there from a successful financial perspective, but also to get there from an emotional perspective. And so it looks at the 13 parts of your life, and I can't remember all of them now because I've got 36 variations of it as well.
Wow.
For different type of people, but there's 13 basic ones. And what I can remember is feelings first and foremost. What feelings are your non-negotiables? What feelings do you want? Very important. And I have a system in place, and we're gonna have videos, and we're gonna have a beautiful board that's gonna be up. It's made out of black glass. It's sectioned into 13 different sections for the user, and it looks at your feelings, your lifestyle. The lifestyle part would be classed as the vision board. Your legacy. Your legacy is very important because your legacy makes you look at who you are today.
Yes.
So, for example, if using R. Kelly, if someone said, do you want this to be your legacy, even though I believe he has a mental illness, but do you want this to be your legacy, your behavior day to day? Do you want people to remember you this way 20 years from now, 50 years from now? It will start to make him and others think, am I behaving my legacy right now? And so it looks at legacy, it looks at mentors, it looks at investments, it looks at business, it looks at spirituality, it looks at education, it looks at every single part of your life. And so we're gonna have videos to go with it. There's gonna be an app connected to it to hold you to account every day to do what you need to do. It's gonna have literally everything there. So we're also launching that within the next 2 to 3 months to help people who can't afford a coach on a daily basis, to help people who needs to learn in their own time and not be pushed by others. And so this is also the two systems that we're putting together, and it will be both in full flow by the end of summer.
Wow, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So will it be available in all good bookshops, Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, it will be available in all good bookshops, God willing, but we will get it to people one way or the other. We'll have a site that will be connected to it. If people just look out moving forward, the K-Benaire, K-B-E-N-A-I-R-E,
Nice.
K-Benaire Lifeboard. And if people also look out for who helps the helpline when the helpline needs help, if there ain't a further contact that we will have, they will start to see the products within the next 3 to 4 months. But I would love for you to have me back as well when I've got the products there, and we can do a session on that, helping people. So, my mission has always been, and it is more now than ever, is to help build and empower people.
Wow. So you've already achieved, so much. But what's next for you?
So what is next for me? If I was to break it up in sections, me launching the book is obviously a part of my next, and where that's going to open doors and send me. Me doing my Lifeboard, going around the world, helping people with their lives, using the Lifeboard to help people move forward. That is a massive part of my future. Moving countries away from the UK, I'm starting the process within the next month or two. I've already started the process, but I mean actively starting to move in the next month or two. That's a part of my journey at this precise time. And really just like trying to be my best self. But fundamentally, they are the main things that I'm focused on. I want to open up a trauma center as well.
Wow.
So we're working on a trauma center. So yeah, they're the areas I really want to help people when it comes to what they're going through mentally and emotionally.
Powerful. Do you mentor people, on a one-on-one basis, or is it groups?
Yeah, so it's funny. We was having this conversation beforehand, where I was talking about them. When we're interacting with people, there's only so much people you can work with, and I would love to work with more people, but it takes so much.
Yeah.
And sometimes emotionally it drains you as well, spiritually it drains you as well. So there's times where I'm working with people, and I try to do as much as I can, but sometimes I can't, and then I feel that level of disappointment as well, because when you're working with people, from my perspective, it's brain surgery.
Wow.
And you can't walk away from your operation mid-surgery. And so sometimes I feel bad when I walk away from my operation mid-surgery because I'm doing so much.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the main reasons why I actually created the Lifeboard, is to help people when I'm not there.
Yes.
And so I mentor people, but I've kind of brought it down a bit in order for me to try and do more to help more people by creating these products.
That makes complete sense. Wow. It's interview is blowing me away.
Thank you.
Genuinely. It's come to that point in the show where I'm gonna ask you for your nugget. This is a big part of the show. People look forward to the nugget, pearl of wisdom, something that people can just take away as to, something that's been really important to yourself.
I would say one nugget is very, very important, is to manage and identify your feelings. We have 26 scales of emotions, 26 scales of feelings. The highest feeling is sheer blissful happiness. The lowest feeling, I used to believe, was depression. It's not.
Wow.
The lowest feeling, there's a feeling that's lower than depression, and the feeling is hopelessness. Every case study, person I've worked with, thing I've read, obituaries, etc., I've discovered that people committed suicide when they felt hopelessness. And so I want us to identify where we are in the emotional scale of happiness, optimism, jealousy, anger, rage, doubt, worry, pessimism, depression. It doesn't matter. The reason why I believe it's a powerful nugget, it doesn't matter what you achieve if you're drowning.
Ooh.
And
Wow.
so I want people to identify where they are emotionally. And if they don't identify, no matter what they achieve, they may be in an extremely dark place. I think that's the number one nugget someone should identify within themselves, that their feelings is trumps all.
Yes. And just in terms of an actionable step, what can they do in order to do that?
Sure. What is bipolar? Bipolar is to jump from happiness to hopelessness all in one skip, hop, jump. That's bipolar, different sides of the pole. And so always identify where you are. Identify how you feel. Just ask yourself, how do I feel right now?
Okay.
I feel angry. Okay, what's better than anger? Hope. Do something that's going to give you hope. Okay. Or what is better than anger? Forgiveness. What are you angry at? And so the more you work up the scales, the more successful you're going to be regardless of your financial situation.
Wow. That's powerful. That's a nugget right there. Yeah. It's a very, very powerful nugget. For me, a really good piece of action is for people to ensure that they buy Kevin's book as soon as it comes out. Without delay. I've no doubt it's going to become an Amazon bestseller. I'm looking forward to reading it myself.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely incredible. I just want to thank you for giving up your time, for pouring into our listeners. I know that they're going to get tremendous amounts of value, and I can't wait for the part 2.
But I also want to say thank you to you as well. I want to say thank you to Ayola. I want to say thank you to Shireen as well. I want to say thank you to Nee. What you guys are all, as a, collectively, one way or the other, either supporting me or supporting you or supporting the team overall. You guys are doing amazing things. Like right now, you could be saving someone's life. Right now, you could be allowing someone to buy their mother a home that could never purchase a home in her day because maybe she was a cleaner. And so sometimes we're saving people and we don't know. We don't know. We're in our rooms, we're in our home, and we are trying to figure things out sometimes. Sometimes we're just in a corner and we don't know how much people we're impacting on the outside.
Wow.
And so I want to say thank you to you, because you are consciously making an effort on a day-to-day basis to help build and empower people. And I think that's powerful. So thank you very much in return.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Guys, that's been an amazing, amazing interview. If I was to boil down everything that we've just discussed, I want to leave you with a very pertinent question. How do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? Are you carrying any type of trauma? Can you identify it? And can you fix it? Change how you see yourself and you will fly leaps and bounds in business. Guys, you have been listening to the Nugg Life, and we will see you at the very top because the bottom is way too crowded.